Are you ready to take control of your future and to stay ahead of your competition? In this video, I'm going to take you through a step-by-step horizon scanning process, and I'll discuss why it's important that businesses engage in horizon scanning in order to thrive in the future. So grab pen and paper and let's get started. The business environment is constantly changing with new products, new technologies, new customer preferences, and it's important that businesses stay ahead of the game and are able to identify these emerging changes. And that's where horizon scanning comes in. Horizon scanning is a method to identify and detect emerging change. But identifying emerging change or weak signals early will give your business a competitive advantage over others. And that's the importance of engaging in horizon scanning. Imagine that you're standing on top of the hill and you're gazing across the horizon. You can see quite far, but you cannot see everything. So you cannot see what is behind the next hill, for instance. What if you could think through what is coming your way in the next 3 to 4 to 5 years? This is the advantage of horizon scanning. It's like having binoculars and looking ahead. Horizon scanning are the binoculars that will allow you to look into the future and to determine the impacts that the potential change will have on your business. Horizon scanning is a way to engage and prepare for what is coming down the road, so that you can be proactive rather than reactive. Proactive planning is about anticipating and preparing for future events. It's a little bit like a game of chess where you're thinking a few moves ahead of time and you're anticipating your opponent's moves. On the other hand, reactive planning involves reacting to events as they happen. It's a little bit like playing ping pong, where you're reacting to your opponent's shot without thinking too much into the future. Being proactive allows you to reduce risk. So by anticipating possible future events, you reduce the risk of being caught off guard. Being proactive also allows you to increase your efficiency. So by thinking ahead, you can think about potential bottlenecks and react to these potential bottlenecks ahead of actually operationalizing whatever change you want to implement in the future. Being proactive also allows you to shape your future. So rather than being reactive to potential futures, you can think ahead of what kind of future you want to envisage, linked to the developments that you've identified in the horizon scan, and prepare accordingly. So you're not just reacting, you're proactively shaping the future. With that in mind, it's clear that horizon scanning is an essential tool for being proactive. Continue watching this video to learn how to implement horizon scanning process so that you can reduce the risk, you can increase your efficiency, and you can gain control of the future of your business. Here are some steps that you can follow to create your own horizon scanning plan. Number 1, define your goals. Be clear why you're engaging in this horizon scanning process. Are you looking out for new technologies? Do you want to know what your customers will be doing in the future? Clearly identifying the goals for the horizon scanning process will make sure that they are aligned with your business objectives. Because essentially you want to use the results of the horizon scanning process to inform your strategy and your decision making accordingly. The second step of the horizon scanning process is to identify the frame for the exercise. So that means identifying the timescale. How far are you looking into the future? Is it 2, 3, 5, maybe 10 years? Depending on the goal of the process, the timescale might change. The longer the timescale you identify or you want to use, the more imaginative the horizon scan will need to be. Most businesses know their sector fairly well, and they can identify change that will happen in the next year and the next 2 years. The longer the time frame, the more difficult it is to determine changes that are going to happen and the impact of these changes. So the longer the time frame, the more resources you have to put into the horizon scanning process. A second way to frame the horizon scanning exercise is to look at the scope. So one could be a geographical scope where you look at certain developments in Europe or in North America, for instance. But it can also look at different sectors, different industries. Are you looking at the construction industry? Are you looking at changes affecting the service industries? Or are you looking at particular trends only or developments? So identifying the time scale and the scope of the exercise early on will help you structure the process accordingly. The third step of the process is to identify the stakeholders that need to be involved. These stakeholders could be limited to your company, but they could also include stakeholders outside of your company. So they could include customers, partners in the manufacturing process. It could involve the production department, it could involve marketing. Again, the stakeholders that need to be involved depend on the frame that you set in the second step, so the scope. Make sure you involve as many stakeholders as you can. This obviously depends on the resources. The more stakeholders you have, the more people you have thinking about potential changes, the better the outcome of the horizon scanning exercise. Once you have identified the stakeholders, the next step, step number 4, you need to think through how you want to involve the stakeholders. So how participative do you want the process to be? What role does each stakeholder play in that process? Identify this early so that you know how you need to communicate with participants, and whether to involve them in workshops, whether to only involve them in reading the scan and commenting. It makes sense to discuss this early on, so that you can communicate their roles and your expectations before you start the horizon scanning exercise. Once you've identified your goals, the frame, the stakeholders, how to involve the stakeholders, step number 5 then is identifying the data sources. So where are you going to find information to create the horizon scans? And this can vary. It depends on your goals, and it depends on the frame and the scope of the horizon scanning exercise. You could get information from consultancy reports, from trade conferences or trade publications, from academic papers. So that really depends on the scope that you've set, the topic that you want to explore in the horizon scanning exercise. But make a list of all the different data sources that you have. The 6th step that then involves defining criteria. Criteria for the data sources, but also criteria for the signals that you are identifying. So which data sources do you trust and which do you trust maybe less? Why is that? And also, are you looking for weak signals? Are you only looking for strong signals? What criteria are you going to use to select the signals that you want to scan for? So criteria could be credibility. So how credible is this signal? How likely is it that the signal will really become a disruptive change in your industry? But it also could be novelty. Are you only looking for really new developments, or are you also including developments that are maybe already becoming a trend? So not just weak signals, but developments that have become more mainstream and have become a trend. You could also use impact as a criteria, so only looking at signals that have a likely very strong impact on your business. Another criteria could be the time of awareness, so the time you think it will take for a signal to really impact your business. And there's a link to the time frame, so step number 2, the time frame that you're looking at in terms of the horizon exercise. In step number 7, you then create the scans. So the scans are essentially overviews of the developments in a particular topic, how it relates to your goals, what developments have happened in the past and what developments are likely to happen in the future. You also describe the main actors that are driving that development. It is also important for the authors to include their thinking about why they've chosen this particular signal in the scan and what stimulated the thoughts, so what they think about it. And this is where the stakeholders come in again. Who do you want to involve? What are their role? Who does what in writing that scan? So these are 7 steps in implementing a horizon scan. Setting goals so that the horizon scan aligns with your business objectives. Set the frame for the horizon scanning exercise, so the time frame or the scope. Think about the stakeholders that need to be involved, how you want to involve them or how they should be involved, the data sources that you need in order to create scans, the criteria you want to use to identify the signals, and then the actual process of writing the scans. Now that you've got the scan, what are you going to do with it? The most important steps come after you create the scans. The scans should inform decision making and should inform strategy. So in the scan, the authors should have identified the likely impact of the signal they've identified. And now is the time to really think through about that impact, how your business wants to react to that likely impact. So are you just watching the developments, or are you already changing your strategy in order to stay ahead of your competition? Create an action plan. I mean, creating action plans is not rocket science, but the important thing is that you continue to monitor the developments in that or pertaining to that signal so that you can change your action plan accordingly. So it's not sufficient to do a horizon scan exercise and then use that for the next 10 years. Identify the signals that are the most important to you and monitor the developments of these signals. You might also set trigger points. So at what point do you want to get active as a business, and do you want to actively engage with that particular signal? Because that will help you to stay up to date and to react to that emerging signal and not be left behind.